Hi, I'm Grady Summers. I'm FireEye's Chief Technology Officer. I'm joined here today by Stephen Davis. Stephen runs our FireEye Quick Response Capability team and our Applied Research team. So Stephen, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the reason we're here today is because you just launched Monitor.app,
Yep.
which is actually the most popular FireEye free software that we've released, going back to the Mandiant days, even more popular than Redline. So first, congrats on a great launch for the application.
Yep.
Can you tell us first a little bit about what the Applied Research and QRC teams do at FireEye, and then we'll talk about Monitor?
Yeah, sure. So some of the things we focus on is delivering either in QRC a quick response capability to our consultants, FAS, Intel, and engineering customers.
Okay.
So what we try to do is kind of solve the internal problems, hard problems that we have at the organization in order to help our consultants do their job better.
Okay.
In Applied Research, Monitor is a fantastic example of that. We focus on research topics and then eventually deliver them and bring them to the market or internal customers such as our HX products, so on and so forth.
So we'll talk a little more about the inner workings of Monitor. Can you
Sure.
talk at a high level, what is Monitor.app? What does it do?
Yeah, sure. So Monitor.app is an application that you can use to monitor real-time events on macOS. There are other tools that you can use to monitor real-time events, and I mentioned that in the blog article, such as like running a D script or something like that. But what Monitor does is it focuses on the higher level things like file writes, network events, process creations with command line arguments and things like that. So as a practitioner, either a systems programmer or a malware analyst, I use this every day to kind of look at what is going on my box. One of the other things you could do is figure out what a piece of software is doing, if it's connecting out to the internet, if it's creating files. This is a great way of doing that.
That's cool. So why'd you write it?
Well, one of the reasons we wrote it is the Applied Research team was taking on a task to actually put this tech inside of our HX product. And I thought while I was writing it, hey, it would be great if we could release something to the community that would be a tool that people could use, very much like the very famous like sysinternals procmon.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a malware reverse engineering background, so one of the tools that I use all the time is procmon, and I love macOS, and there's always I wish that we had a sysinternal suite for macOS.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly why we wrote something like this, so that we can kind of give this community so they can start seeing what's going on in their OS X host.
Now, when we were talking about Monitor early, we talked about the fact that it looks really simple. You know,
Yep.
It's one screen, and it's going to scroll events, but I think that that lays on top of a lot of complexity.
Yep.
Can you talk about some of the underpinnings of Monitor and what you had to do to get it working?
Sure. So one of the things we had to do is write a kernel extension or kext, and what that allows us to do is use some of the lower level macOS APIs to be able to get access to the nitty gritty things that we want, like file writes, network events, DNS, stuff like that. We also use a XPC interface to communicate to the web UI, or excuse me, the console userland application, meaning like the GUI that you see.
Yeah.
And what we do is we essentially marshal events back and forth between the XPC interface and then communicate with the kext for those events. And why this is kind of interesting is because it's actually a way that Apple kind of delineates some of its privilege levels, so that way if there's a vulnerability in the GUI application, the XPC interface is actually what has the higher level controls to be able to talk to the kernel extension.
Interesting. And I mentioned earlier that it's been a very popular download on our website. Anyone who wants to find it, of course, can go to the FireEye website or read your blog about it. I think one reason for that is we've sort of taken for granted in the Windows world, we've had sysinternals for years now.
Absolutely.
And such a tool that just really didn't exist in the Mac space. Right?
Right.
I mean, that's what's unique about Monitor, is pulling it all together. Given that, what are some of the uses? You talked about using it for malware reverse engineering. Yep. What do you think people will use it for?
I use it for all types of things on my host. One of them was I was curious how under the hood OS X created users on the system. So what I did was I added a user, I had Monitor running, and I got to see that it was essentially dittoing a lot of files on the host and duplicating and adding some data toplists and stuff like that. Some other general use cases would be if you were curious what components were connecting out on the network to various hosts on the internet. If you want to know, hey, what are files being written to by Skype or what have you?
That's one thing I found really interesting playing with it. You know, there are several tools where you can get this kind of information, but Monitor puts it all in one place. And being able to see which applications are writing files and then which ones are connecting out, just from a consumer privacy perspective, I found really interesting. You know, why is it that Dropbox and Google and Microsoft Word need to connect to the internet constantly? And you know, there's a good reason in most cases, but it's eye-opening.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the, like I said, it was a great way to just kind of pull all those, or like you said, it was a great way to pull all those tools together and different types of bits and pieces. And as I said, if you're an incredibly technical person who wants to write a D script, using dtrace to be able to get at all of that data.
Yeah.
You definitely can, but this presents it in a much more higher level, what's actually important to maybe a malware analyst or someone that's looking at the system to figure out what an application is actually doing.
Very easy to get up and running with
Yeah.
it. Do you see any kind of like roadmap in your head of other things that you want to add to this?
I have a few ideas. I actually, there's an email address on there. If anyone has any specific ideas, I'd be very open to them of where to
Great.
take things.
Yeah.
Adding more filtering and maybe having more complex filtering, very similar to the way that the sysinternals procmon works of like is not or does not contains and is not and things like that.
Yeah, oh, that'd be great. Look forward to seeing what you've got coming on next.
Awesome.
So, good. Well, thanks again for all the great work on Monitor, and just would encourage anyone who's watching the video to go ahead and check it out. You go to FireEye.com and click on the blog link and read Stephen's blog post to find more.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks.